All right, welcome back to it. My next guest, one of my favorites on social media. He entertains me greatly and often, which I greatly appreciate. James David Dickson is a Michigan-based strategist, founder of the Make Politics Local Again movement, host of the James Dickson podcast, former New York Post swing state reporter, and just an overall good guy. James, nice to see you.
Having me, Steve.
Yeah, you entertain me greatly on social media. Just so you know, I find you highly entertaining, highly often. So you're very consistent. All right, so you argue in a new conversation, Michigan Enjoyer, another place where you can be found. You say authenticity is really important in 2026, and this comes to mind because of Mallory McMorrow, one of the three Democrats leading the race to become the Michigan Democrat nominee for the U.S. Senate seat that is going to be up for grabs. Look, she came from California, trash-talked Michigan, praised California, and apparently was voting in elections in California after she had moved to Michigan permanently. I would say that's three strikes, but look, I'm not a Democrat voter, so, but it's a problem, isn't it?
It's absolutely a problem. I mean, you look at Haley Stevens, and the biggest mark they have against her, certainly on social media, is that she's too Michigan. Haley is pure Michigan. She's awkward in the way we're awkward. She's folksy in the way we're folksy. And then you have Abdul El Sayed, the fake doctor, who has some of that Mom Dami in him. He has the ability to be charming, though I would also argue that, he can veer the other direction as well. Then you have Mallory McMorrow, who essentially, if you look at her own timeline, moved to Michigan essentially to be a politician. She officially moves here in 2016, she says, her own words. Then by 2018, she's running for Michigan Senate and wins that seat. So she came here to be a politician, and ever since, she sought out to change Michigan, not to be a neighbor to us in Michigan.
Yeah. Abdul El Sayed, by the way, is about as warm and cuddly as Hassan Piker, the guy on the campaign trail with him. Let's just be honest about that. These are not great candidates. And I think for the first time in a while, we're seeing the Democrats do what Republicans sadly have done too many times, put up lousy candidates. I think McMorrow's baggage here is going to bring her down. And right now, when I look at Real Clear Politics and the polling that's been done, El Sayed is leading. And I don't know that somebody who's been openly anti-Semitic, that campaigns with Hassan Piker, who hates America, obviously, and wants to make America communist or whatever his deal is, I don't think that's a good look. I don't think people get behind any. And Haley Stevens, she might be folksy, but she's also not strong. I think the Democrats have a problem here. And I look around the country and I look at, Plattner, Graham Plattner there in Maine. I see the same problem. Oh, yeah. I see the Democrats are putting up these terrible candidates. Do you see the same thing?
Absolutely. And I think these kind of things work until they don't work, right? And I think sometimes we can over-infer from past success. So you have a guy like Mondami win mayor of New York City, and you think now there's just some massive appetite for these, kind of Islamist, third worldist type candidates. I think for Syed to work, Detroit or Dearborn would need to be the size of Detroit, our biggest city in Michigan. And it's just not. Whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's the fact that this guy's never held a job for more than 3 years, whether the fact that he's a career nomad running for a position in the U.S. Senate that would require him to sit still for 6 years, nothing about his story makes sense. And Mallory McMorrow is the only one who makes less sense than that on the Democrat side.
Yeah. Let me share a couple more stories that don't make any sense. I'm going to shift gears on you. Mike Duggan drops out of the race for governor and claims it's because of the Iran war. I'm sorry, you're running for governor in Michigan. What the hell does the Iran war have to do with you running for governor in Michigan, sir? Your thoughts on that one, James?
The whole thesis of Make Politics Local Again, the reason I started this movement is this idea that what do Republicans do in the post-Trump era, which started the day after Election Day 24? Donald Trump's name will never appear on another ballot. How do you win anyway, especially with the national media and even our Michigan media telling you horrible stories, wanting to talk about Iran and gas prices and all these far-flung things? And the theory is you make politics local again by talking about conditions on the ground in Michigan. You talk about who crashed Michigan into the rocks, and how they did it. And I think Mike Duggan could have done that. His problem is he was never an independent. He was a Democrat. And the only way he could present as a change candidate is by attacking Gretchen Whitmer, whose support he probably would have needed to have success.
True that, but I think he would have pulled. Look, I talked to a lot of moderate Republicans. It's a polite term. It's a family show. Moderate Republicans who thought that Duggan was an attractive candidate. You know, they're not really Trump supporters. They voted for him, but he wasn't really their favorite. But they did it because the alternative was worse. I think Duggan had a shot at doing well, and it's just an odd thing that he dropped out when he did. I feel like he was pressured by somebody, James. I do. I feel like the pressure came from somewhere. It wasn't just in a vacuum. Anyhow, let me ask you about a mutual friend who also entertains me greatly on social media, Charlie LaDuff. Banned from Mackinac. Charlie smoking Pall Malls or whatever it is he smokes, and being banned from Mackinac because he's not a legitimate journalist. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer with a number of Emmys and everything else, but he's not invited because, well, he's not. He is authentic, James. You want authentic? There's Charlie LaDuff. I think he is who he is. But they wouldn't let him in. What do you think of that?
Yeah, Charlie actually finds menthol to put into his cigarettes. He doesn't buy menthols; he makes menthols.
Of course he does.
That's how Charlie LaDuff rolls. And as a journalist, right, I would be so embarrassed if I were given a credential to cover the Mackinac Policy Conference while Charlie LaDuff, with Pulitzers and more awards than you could fit in the house I live in, to his name, is denied that credential. What it would seem to me is that if I got a credential, that must mean they think of me as state media, printing approved narratives, whereas Charlie's plan was he was gonna show up and tell the truth. And I guess there's just no appetite for truth.
Yeah, we'll have none of that.
Can't have it.
Silence! Yeah. Silence! Anyhow, all right, here's my guess, James, and you can weigh in or defer. I think because of the Democrat field for Senate bringing this back around, I think Mike Rogers stands a very good chance of being successful for the first time for a Republican in many years because of the three candidates the Democrats are putting up. I also think that because of the damage that Jocelyn Benson has so much baggage right now, I think the Republicans have a shot at winning the governor's mansion as well. I'll give you the last word here. What's it going to take to win the Senate seat and for Republicans to be in the governor's mansion?
Senate is a solitary position, but I would argue that in 26, Senator Alyssa Slotkin is actually Mike Rogers' running mate right now. The idea that she was this moderate Democrat, and that's why some people split tickets and voted for her. Then she gets to Washington and immediately starts committing sedition against President Trump. And so I think there's so much buyer's remorse for how Alyssa Slotkin carries herself that we don't want to send another Democrat to Washington and be watching those videos. Imagine El Sayed and the kind of clips that would emerge from that. It would be an embarrassment day in, day out.
It certainly would.
I think we're ready finally for a steady hand. And in the governor's race, Michigan history says we trade the governor's office every 8 years since term limits, and Republicans are due.
Republicans are due. James David Dickson, you should come back more often. I truly enjoy you. I do. Nice to see you, my friend. Anytime you want.
Steve.
There you go. I'll take a break. He puts a smile on my face. I'll be right back.